I paid a lot of money for those nuggets 12 years ago.
And we welcome you into another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. Looking for nuggets on a Tuesday. It is, do you know what happened 1 month ago today that's of significance, dear Goon?
I think would have been October 2nd.
October 2nd of 2021.
That would have been a Saturday, right?
Would have been a Saturday. That was the last time Penn State won a football game.
Holy crap.
1 month ago today. Who would have thought for all of the scenarios that we could have played out in our mind after that Indiana win, I'm pretty confident in saying that there was zero individuals that would have said,
wow,
it'll be over a month until we see another Penn State win. But that is the case here.
And we're great prognosticators.
So normally we're right on target with this stuff. So it's a shocker for sure that we missed it.
You were the one who bet $1,000 on Illinois upsetting Penn State and Penn State just absolutely playing like crap.
Yep, exactly right.
That's crazy to even think about now that I'm
it really is.
It was so long ago.
Yeah, it really is. Lots to get into today. It's just a mix of, from just the emotional standpoint, it's a mix of emotions I have coming off of Saturday night. One, I think Penn State should take a lot of pride with the way it regrouped and played. I thought Penn State actually played its best game of the season in that matchup against Ohio State on Saturday night. The scoop and score is one of those things that happens in football, right? Like it's, I don't know. I don't even, I'm just speaking for me. You can certainly hold whatever grudges you want. I don't, it's just one of those, again, it's just kind of a fluke thing. I don't, hats off. That's what championship teams do is come up with those big plays when they need them, and Ohio State did. Hats off to them. But again, Penn State, I thought, played pretty much toe-to-toe with Ohio State for the better part of the night. And I do think that's a good Ohio State team. I'm still not sure. I'm starting to come around to the rest of the country's thinking that the Big Ten is overrated. And I don't mean that as necessarily a slight. I just don't think there's a great team in the Big Ten. And I do think Ohio State's very good. And listen, this is a year where very good could win a national title. So I'm not, when I say Ohio State's very good, but I don't think they're great, I'm telling you, I still think they could win the national title because, again, I watched Georgia, and listen, Georgia, they are able to get the plays kind of similarly too, but it's one of those things, and we've talked about it, Goon, where and it can stop in a heartbeat, right, that momentum, but it's just one of those things where when you start believing that good things are going to happen, because Florida's right there. I mean, that game can go either way, and then all of a sudden, boom, boom. And now it's 20. You go from 10-0, and Florida's thinking, man, we got to stop here. We score, it's 10-7, and then it's 24-0, and the game is essentially over. And it can happen so quick. And when you are feeling like, yep, these things are just going to happen for us, this is what we do. And that's what Georgia does believe, and with good reason, because they are consistently doing that this season. Whereas, if you're Florida, I think, there's a little more apprehension of, man, I hope, seems like we're hanging in there. Hope we can do this. And I just think that that confidence is a big part of the equation right now for Georgia. And listen, Ohio State certainly has it in the Big Ten. That's Ryan Day hasn't lost a conference game yet as head coach of the Buckeyes.
I heard that the other day. And I was like, holy crap, he's right. That's
no, and it is. It's remarkable.
Well, we talk about this, not us, but people in general. Obviously, I come from the old man style of play, and that is tough defense, good offense. But when you get in those big games, there's going to be a turnover going one way or the other.
Yep.
So if Penn State was on the receiving end of that scoop and score, just imagine how that it would have changed. And you take away the scoop and the score and the 85-yard rush. I mean, again, we're right there, but I'm so sick of saying we're right there.
Yep.
I am not a moral victory type of guy at all.
No, and I'm with you.
You said it to open up to open up the show, and that is that I am proud how they rallied, and they could have folded the tents in. I mean, honest to God, a little bit of me was hesitant to pick them because I thought that they were going to fold the tents. And,
I more than thought that. It wasn't even as
going to show up.
Yeah, it was for me. It wasn't even as much that I thought Penn State was going to fold the tent. It was more that I just thought Ohio State was playing well enough, and again, kind of one of those things where once they get it rolling. And I just thought Penn State at the line of scrimmage was going to get manhandled, and they really didn't. Which
defensively they did.
Well, even offensively, I'm telling you, that's a really good defensive line. Penn State was going against, and they had some runs in there. Again, not obviously as many or consistently as you want, and the pass protection was there for much of the night. Obviously, again, I don't think you play a team that's as good as Ohio State, especially in that environment out there at night. You are going to give up some sacks somewhere along the way. Like that, to me, is just part of the equation. But there were a lot of plays where Clifford had all night and found open guys.
Oh, let me try to think now. What Illinois exploited us against was what Iowa did well against us. I think that the game plan is to beat Ohio State is in that mid-range passing game.
Yep.
Not the screen game, not the deep game, just that mid-range game because their linebackers they're actually pretty chewed up right now. They've had a lot of attrition at their linebacker ranks. And it showed on Saturday because the middle of the field was pretty much exposed and Penn State exploited it. So expect the Michigan State teams to go in there and exploit those same holes. So,
but it does go back to what we talk about often, which is that whole, each week is a season unto itself. Because when you look at it as a whole, right, losing to Illinois and having that type of performance at Ohio State, I mean, it's inexplicable, right? I mean, it is inexplicable. And you can say, listen, Illinois played a great game against Penn State, and that may be true. But again, you're talking about a team that's been horrible this season.
We've been talking about
putting it all together.
Season, and we never even mentioned Illinois as a trap game, and
ultimate
trap game.
But so there's a mix of emotions for me. Is I go back to James Franklin's comments about we got to take the next step to being elite. Obviously, Penn State has not done that again this season, but. And losing 3 straight was something I never would have foreseen for this team with this schedule this season at any point, but especially after that Indiana win a month ago. I mean, there is no way I would have said Penn State would lose 3 games, period, let alone 3 in a row after that win over Indiana and with what we had seen from the team to that point. But then I'm watching, some of the NFL yesterday, and you explained to me how the Jets beat the Bengals after the Bengals blow out the Ravens. And it's just, again, there are just so many variables that I think we the general public, don't take into account and can't. I mean, we don't know all of the different dynamics, but it is what makes the programs who are consistently good or elite, great, whatever you want to say, but to do it consistently, right, is really, really difficult. I mean, what the Patriots did for all of those years, what Alabama and Clemson have done in college football and Ohio State has done in the Big Ten, it is, I think sometimes you take it for granted, right? If you're a fan or it says, oh, well, yeah, of course Alabama always blows out. Yeah, they do. But it's amazing because it is really hard to do that, because all it takes is, again, that one day where you're a little off your game, and another team, for whatever reason, it all comes together for that team that day. That being said, again, Penn State is, where it's at right now, and I do think this home stretch, the final 4 games, are going to obviously define this season, but I think also to a large degree, once again, set the tone for next year. And I know fans are tired of next year, and I'm not sitting here guaranteeing you anything one way or the other for next year, but I do think this stretch run is one, going to be fun, actually, as fans and certainly the players. Again, the good news, if you want to look at it that way, for the players is that, again, there is no pressure. Just go out and play football. Have fun. You try to ruin other teams' seasons now. And, I said it before the Ohio State game, and I feel better about it now. I really do think this team is going to run the table from here on out. And that includes the bowl game. I think this team will get to 10 wins again under James Franklin. And that is also a double-edged sword, where that is, again, not something to be taken for granted. Getting 10 wins in big-time college football in a conference like the Big Ten is difficult. And to do it as consistently as Penn State has done it under James Franklin is truly remarkable. It is also amazing that you could be that consistently good and never once get to the college football playoffs, right? Like that is also.
I think we're going to go 5-0. Huh?
And so I do.
Do you really?
And again, with my prognostication ability, Penn State will finish at 500 and not go to a bowl game is what's going to happen. But
Lord.
no, I really do. I like. Because I think Clifford's going to be healthier as the season moves on. I mean, I think each week, and that's a big part of the equation. Obviously, you go into this with the idea of no significant injuries for any of the teams, Penn State or the opponents. But watching that Michigan State-Michigan game, and hats off to Michigan State again. And I know the Michigan fans, they have to be all over Harbaugh right this week and all of that. And to some degree, I guess I understand that, and it's part of the nature of the business. But I think Michigan State is a good. I think those are two good teams. I don't know. Michigan State, I think, is going to. I'll be curious to see when the playoff rankings are released tonight. I think they will either be 4 or 5. They'll either just be on the outside looking in at the moment. Yeah.
Ohio State.
No, Michigan State
you think
will be 4 or 5. Is my guess going in, and that's pretty rarefied air for Sparty. Sure. And I think watching how they handle that now down the stretch is also going to be interesting, because they have obviously a couple of very big games remaining on their schedule, as does Michigan, as does Penn State. And, so we'll see how this whole thing plays out, but it's certainly not going to take anything for granted after that Illinois game. This sure feels as close to a sure W as you could get at this stage of the season for Penn State against Maryland on Saturday. Well, this is a Maryland program that it does feel, and I know there's no team they'd rather beat than Penn State. And again, if you're Penn State, if you're actually on the team, they can't take this for granted, and I understand that. And you better show up each Saturday and all of that. But I'm telling you, this Maryland team, if Penn State comes out and punches it in the mouth, the game will be over. Because I don't think this is a Maryland team that is ready to rally.
I want to rewind here a little bit here. So I'm watching the Michigan State game. I believe it was Greasy doing the game. And he was saying, I think it was Steve Levy was doing the announcing, and he says it has a playoff feel to it right now. And then Greasy said, "Well, it is. This is in the East. This is a 5-game playoff right now between Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan State. That's the bottom line. Is
and
the
Michigan.
Next 5?
Yeah. Yeah, Penn State, Michigan. Yeah.
The next 5 weeks are it was playoffs. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, and I was like, well, hell, that's exactly what it is. And I am very, very, very impressed by Mel Tucker, what he's done at Michigan State right now. And I think that he is taken, he is a blue-collar guy, a roughneck type of guy, and he is imposing his will on his team, and they are imposing their will on other teams. So to fast forward a little bit, I mean, they did nothing but just punch Michigan in the face and say, we're taking this from you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what they did. And it's exactly what they're going to come here to do in 4 weeks.
Yep.
So we better sure as hell be prepared for this. And then, that's way down the line. We still got 3 other games, 2 against, inferior opponents in Rutgers and Maryland, but they are inferior opponents. That's not, but we are their rival. Ohio State was, you're not our rival, making fun of Penn State. But I mean, this is the case, is that Michigan, Maryland and Rutgers see us as their rival, and they hate us. And this next 4 weeks scare the living hell out of me, Ironhead. I mean, this is, I think we constantly say, oh, this is the most important time in James Franklin's career and this and that. But I mean, it really is. And you cannot give me a 4-week span in his career that's more important right now, because this team is at a fork right now. They can either go this way and say, okay, I'm not worried about this season, we're not going anywhere, and pack it up and this and that and just go through the motions and get their butts kicked the next 3 or 4 weeks. Or they can go out there and play like they did this past Saturday, and that is have pride in your team, pride in your program, pride in yourself, and go out there and fight. You're on national television. You're playing Ohio State on national TV at 7 o'clock prime time at night. They balled out, and they played fit. We played not well enough to win, but we played very, very good. We should have won the game, and that's why I'm saying I'm not a moral victory guy, because I really believe we should have won that game. So we are going to see in the first half hour of this game on Saturday which team is going to be here. The team that goes to Illinois, plays against Illinois, and just say, hey, we don't want to be here. We're just going to go out here and roll our helmets out here, and Maryland's going to – because Maryland's not going to come in here and bow down to us. Yeah, and it's not what they do. They're never going – or we go down there, excuse me. Yeah. They're never going to do that. It's not their MO, never will be. But when you smack them in the mouth, they will. They'll back down and say, okay, these guys are much bigger, stronger than us. We need to do that. I'm sure we'll get more into what we need to do on Thursday, but I'm just saying – these next 4 games, we lose 2 of those games, which is a very, very good possibility.
Yeah.
That's a 5-loss season.
Yeah.
That is no different than last year. And there going to be some ramifications come out of that, I believe, if that were to happen. So, our guys better be ready to go. They really, really, really better be ready to go, or they will get absolutely embarrassed by Maryland. And then let's not forget, 1 year ago, they completely embarrassed Penn State for I believe it was their 5th loss in a row, right? Was that the 5th game? Was that when
I think it was.
Did they lose a game after that?
Yeah, I think they had it.
Penn State doesn't lose to Maryland. You don't lose to Maryland. That's just the rules. It's the bottom line and this and that. And we lost to Maryland.
Not only a loss. They got rolled. It was
destroyed.
Not competitive.
They didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So, again, we have Ohio State in our rearview mirror. You have last year fresh in your memory of how they embarrassed you. So you better go down there in the Maryland and the Bird Stadium and expect a dogfight and expect to punch somebody in the mouth and expect to win that freaking game.
Yeah.
If not, there's something significantly wrong with this program. If that does not happen this week.
Yeah, I did. There were several things to like about Saturday night, despite, again, the frustration at the end of the night with coming up short again against Ohio State. But I thought one of the really good things was getting the tight ends involved and having the tight ends produce with the opportunities given. There were still some missed. There were a couple missed opportunities, but I thought getting them involved in the way that they did. And listen, I do think down the stretch, because of the lack of a consistent running game, and that's just again, you're going to continue to work to get more out of that. But that to me, and again, this is from the fans' perspective, not coaches and players. They got to be working their tails off to try to get it rectified. That to me is what it is for this season. Like there may be some improvements, but this is not going to be a team that's going to go out and run for 100+ yards against big time defenses.
You know what our highest rushing output per one player was this season?
So far? I do not.
72 yards.
Yeah, and it's just been a source of great frustration. And listen, it's one of those things, I kind of was chuckling when Ohio State reeled off the big run. And I think we've talked about this over the years too. It's like, it'd be like Kajana Carter, first 10 carries, they'd hold him to, 35 yards, and then he'd 80-yard touchdown run. It's like, well, yeah, we contained him except for the 80-yard touchdown. Well, yeah, but that's what those guys, that's why. And actually, it's kind of to the point earlier is, Penn State was with Ohio State except for the scoop and score and the big run. Well, yeah, but that's where the separation is. James Franklin talks about it all the time. Explosive plays. Those are difference makers. Like you need to be on the plus side of that if you want to win the big games and the big matchups. And so, Penn State is going to have to use the short passing game as it did to a large degree Saturday night as its running game. And again, that's not to say you abandon the run. I think that, you got to still try to work on it and try to improve. And, moving forward, that's obviously has to be one of the real significant pushes for this program is to get better play out of the offensive line and the running backs. And the backs, I don't know. They're not getting. I can't sit here and pinpoint what it is, but that group is not living up to expectations. And again, you can blame some of that on the offensive line, but I think you can blame a good bit of it on the running backs. That they are just not. They are not as effective as what we were anticipating. And I think for me, that's been one of the great disappointments of this season to date is that they just have not been able to figure that out really at all. There were some moments Saturday night. I mean, you got the run in for a touchdown. So it's like, oh, maybe they've got it rectified, got a couple of tough yards when you needed it. But, that's been the exception rather than the rule for sure this season.
It's very disappointing. And there's no doubt about it. I mean, you obviously me, know where I come from and what my background is, and that's like my thing. And it's just like you can't go out and I even go back to the Illinois game. It's like you can't get 3 freaking yards in 9 overtimes. You can't get 3 freaking yards. That's horribly embarrassing and just frustrating beyond belief. Again, can be rectified. I mean, they just got to go out. I mean, it's not like they're sitting there saying, you know what, we can't rush the ball this week. We're not going to practice it at all. I guarantee you these guys are practicing it every day, and they're getting harped on. And, the fact that we're sitting here talking about it, it is what it is. But it's just as frustrating to those guys, I'm sure it is to James and his staff, is, not getting, the production out of this offensive line. And, you say it could be the running backs. It could be the tight ends, too. We don't know what kind of blocking guys I haven't really zoned in to see exactly, what the tight end blocking situation has been like. But, I mean, it's an ongoing thing. This has been James's whole career. It's like, I always say you take away Saquon Barkley. I mean, what have we really, really rushed for in 7, 8 years? I mean, even in going back to OB, I mean, they weren't really his guys. Right. So, I mean, we had a pretty good offensive line when Bill took over, but James has never had a good offensive line. They've never, I guess one of the knocks on, if you have these big star recruits and this and that, but if you're not coaching them and they're not performing on Saturday 3 years after their recruiting day, then is it go back to a coaching thing? Are you recruiting the wrong people? Is the recruiting missing? I mean, you're recruiting the wrong type of guys. So I don't know, there's a lot of questions that need to be asked. And again, I go back to, we're going to know a lot about this team and this program with by about 4:15 on Saturday. We're going to have a pretty good feel for what kind of team this is going to be and what kind of program we have going forward.
Yeah, and it's just so. I'm having a hard time just trying to kind of figure out the Big Ten as a whole. Because again, Iowa, I think and Booch, I think was with us. All three of us were after the Iowa game. It's like, well, Iowa is not
that good.
Yeah, not a team that should be in the top 5. But I think we were all expecting Iowa to run the table or maybe stub its toe once along the way. Well, now they've lost a couple of games and not looked good doing it. And by the way, the West race now has become very intriguing, right? Like
it's unbelievable.
It is, and I don't think any of those teams are capable of beating Ohio State on the biggest stage in the conference at the end of the season. So I think Ohio State, it's going to come down to taking care of business against the two Michigan schools, and then I think. Ohio State can pencil itself in for yet another trip to the college football playoffs, representing the Big Ten.
I don't know, man. I'm hanging my hat on Sparty right now. I mean, that is a tough team with a hell of a damn running back in Walker.
Holy
crap, man.
Nah, he is. I'll still. I mean, we'll see. Season will play itself out. I
mean, I'm going into Saturday night. We're sitting there. We're at a Halloween party and. I'm sitting there watching the games during the day, and you're watching Iowa get completely smoked by Wisconsin, and you're like, okay, they weren't as good as we thought. Okay, so then you look at Indiana getting smoked, and you're like, oh my god. And then our Auburn was the only team, but they did play till later in the night. But that's Auburn and Villanova are our.
And everybody that everybody had been watching earlier in the day was saying. Ole Miss seemed to be the hot pick for that game Saturday night. Just about everybody I was listening or watching to was listen.
Lane Kiffin, baby.
Yeah, and I just I'm really curious to see that Auburn Alabama game among the many games I'm curious to see this season because I do think Auburn's getting better, and I thought that night. At Beaver Stadium, that's a good team, and this is part of it too. Is so you can be a really good team with a couple of losses, right? And Penn State was left for dead, and again was right there with an Ohio State team that I suspect will end up in the college football playoffs. Although again, we'll see how it all works itself out.
Prognostication.
Oh yes,
you're spot on, like 3-4% of the time.
Yeah, at least 2. I get at least 2 out of 100 pretty consistently.
Yeah, but it is going to be a fantastic final 4 weeks of the year. Really going to be interesting.
I think it will be because again, I don't think there's much certainty, put it that way, in the conference, and even just like we've been talking about with Penn State. I think it's completely conceivable that Penn State goes 1-3 in these final 4, and I think it's conceivable Penn State goes 4-0. I guess it's even conceivable they go 0-4. I just I'm gonna
what's Penn State
pencil in the Maryland.
That's the problem. That is
the
absolute problem we have. It's not even a question anymore. It's a problem of what team is going to show up and.
But that Illinois game really is the exception to the rule, both this season and under James Franklin. And I'm not saying that's not can't repeat itself, but I mean, the injury. I mean, you can, I guess say that the backup quarterback should be more right. But I mean, with limited experience and being in that environment, I don't know. I don't know that there's a whole lot more really that could have been done. I mean, I don't know what all was done in practices and stuff, but presumably, to your point with the running game, like they're working the backup quarterbacks in practice. They're getting them as ready as they can. It's just different when you're throwing in there again in that environment against that defense that night. And I get, look at what I was done. And again, that's why I keep saying it's. The timing of games matters too, right? Because if you're playing the Cincinnati Bengals last week, you don't want to be anywhere near them. If you're playing the Cincinnati Bengals that took on the Jets yesterday, sign me up.
Wow.
So you just, and those are professional athletes, right? I mean, these are guys that are getting paid to go do their job, and you can't figure it out. So,
yeah,
I don't know. It's even more difficult when you get to the college ranks. And again, to me, the back-to-back loss thing, I think, is a legitimate concern for the program under James Franklin, right? Like that is legit. But that Illinois game really is the exception. Franklin has not lost often to, and we can argue about Sparty a couple of those years, but a clearly inferior. I mean, Michigan State, yes, I think had less talent than Penn State those years, and there was a hangover and all of that. I will grant you that. But not, I mean, this is Penn State up here, Illinois down here. That's really the only game like that I think he's had outside of last season, which again, I'm throwing last season out the window.
But I would always think that Indiana game last year, but Indiana was a damn good team.
Yeah, Indiana was a good team, and it was.
There's another one that we're watching, and I'm like, damn.
Well,
you think because I thought they were a lot better than they're really showing right now. And I mean,
but that's the other thing. So there are ebbs and flows, and it does matter. So everybody's now, well, that lost to Iowa looks worse. Well, and it does, no argument whatsoever. But it matters when you're playing a team, right? Like playing at Wisconsin to open the season, regardless of what happens after that. That was a big game in the moment.
That wasn't the Axe. That's Minnesota, Wisconsin. Was that the Pig?
And again, when you play these games, matters because teams ebb and flow also, right? And so you might be playing a team. You might be playing a really good team when it's not playing real well, and vice versa. You might be playing a pretty bad team that plays well on the day that you play it, and trying to figure that stuff out. I think it's why trying to choose the college football playoffs in that committee. I was talking with somebody about this over the weekend. No matter what you do, because it's people will say the eye test, but there are teams that you might not have said past the eye test that were championship teams. Right, like the Steelers last Super Bowl when they beat the Seahawks. That wasn't a team. 12 weeks into the season, you would have said, "Yep, that passes the eye test as a Super Bowl championship team." Right? Like it wouldn't have. And college football is more difficult than I mean, the NFL. You're at least playing, the teams within your division, your conference. You're getting some semblance of a pretty close comparable schedule. Even where you're trying to have a good representative schedule, right? Like 10 years ago or 6 years ago, when you're putting schedules together, you might be trying to schedule Cincinnati because you need the W, right? You might be scheduling, Mississippi because you need the W, and you might be scheduling Wake Forest because you need the W, and right, you might be, scheduling a team that USC because you think, man, we need a powerhouse, or a Texas because we need a powerhouse on there, and those teams don't come through in a particular season, or an LSU for crying out loud. I do love the LSU and Alabama showdown Saturday night. And listen, it's college football. I'm not saying there's no chance for LSU, but boy, going into that game, that does not feel like a showdown matchup this season, to yours truly, anyway.
Well, it could be your boys' going away party. We're going to beat them Alabama time. We're recruiting. We're going to win every party. We're going to win everything.
Take a break here. We are back with more of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead show. We're coming to you from Quaker Steak and Lubin State College. Back after this.
I love the fight Saturday. Lion Country Kia is offering exceptional deals on your new Kia during Kia's Command the Season event.
We have a nice selection on the 2021 Kia Sportage with various options and prices as low as $26,800, saving you $3,000. Or if you demand big power and towing capacity, slip into one of the 2021 Kia Sorrentos available on our lot, starting at $32,680.
Discover why Kia drivers throughout the area come to Lion Country Kia or visit online at lioncountrykia.com.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
Hi, Johnny Broom here. If you're in the market for a new Hyundai or a pre-owned car, truck, van, or SUV, nobody beats a Blaze Alexander deal. But don't take my word for it.
Hey, Goon says tell him Johnny sent you.
Hey, tell him Johnny sent ya.
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Wait, tell him Juan or tell him Johnny sent you?
Tell him Johnny sent you.
Here at Bill Pickles Tap Room, we say,
tell him Johnny sent you.
And remember,
tell him Johnny sent you.
And we turn our attention for a moment to the National Football League and a good weekend for the Pennsylvania teams. And the Lions were a popular pick on the shows I was listening to going into that Eagles-Lions matchup. And Philadelphia does get the big victory. A very important win and a big win in a number of different ways for the Steelers over the Browns on Sunday as well. And much like the Big Ten, I think the AFC North is going to be fascinating to watch for the remainder of the season, because I just don't know what you can take away right now that you can say you feel certain of. Right, because I mean, everybody was jumping on I'm talking nationally. But people are like, "Oh man, Lamar Jackson MVP! Look out, the Ravens!" And then they get smashed by the Bengals, and everybody's, "Oh my gosh, the Ravens are really good, but we forgot Joe Burrow, and look at the Cincinnati team. This is the team that's going to win the A." And then the New York Jets, for God's sake, are you kidding me? The New York Jets beat the Bengals, and so and the Steelers were left for dead at 1-3, and now they're 4-3, and right in it, and and now everybody's leaving Cleveland for dead. Oh, it's the same old Cleveland. There you go. I saw
some Sunday Ironhead, and I know it to be true, but I never saw it on paper, and that is Roethlisberger's record against Ohio.
Yeah,
NFL teams.
It's pretty good.
He's got 50-some wins over the two of them, and like 5 losses total.
It's pretty good.
Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's a mad Ohio guy going back and being mad his home state didn't draft him, I think. But Lord, dude.
And listen, it's football, it's the NFL, and with the Steelers especially, you never take anything for granted. But you have the Monday night game with the Bears now, and then you have those Lions. Again, a chance for the Steelers to really be. I mean, they're in the hunt right now, obviously, but you get these next couple of games under your belt. Now the Chargers are looking much more vulnerable than they did a couple of weeks ago. Again, you don't want to get carried away. I've learned my lesson over the years when I have gotten carried away. But, after the 1-3 start, I will just say that, things look a lot more promising than I would have thought they would have at this stage of the season for the Steelers. And listen, to what we were talking about earlier in trying to kind of figure out, okay, you might know where you're at a given time, and even more so in the NFL than in college, right? It's all about coming together at the right time of the year. Yeah, you got to be good enough to get in the mix for the playoffs. But once you're there, man, it's putting a few games together and, creating a couple of breaks, getting a couple of breaks, whatever. But
I hate them. I hate the Steelers, but they make their own breaks. I got to give it to them.
Well, and there's a couple of things that I'm really liking right now about the Steelers. One is the running game, which I didn't see any way they were going to get it going, and that's why I'm holding out some hope for as much as I don't. I think it is what it is with Penn State. I thought it was what it was with the Steelers, and that was again after a smaller sample size, a couple of games in. But I just didn't think they were going to be able to get it going, certainly the way they have these last couple of weeks. And I do think it's helping. Well, I don't think. I know it's helping to open up even more of the passing game and allowing Big Ben. Play action is when it is a believable play action, it is such an asset for an offense because, again, when you're talking about NFL, that split second of hesitation is all a great quarterback and receiver or a great running back needs, right? You just need that moment of uncertainty from the defense to be able to create an opportunity for yourself. And listen, that Steelers defense, when it's healthy, again, I think is right there with any in the country. And I think, when the Steelers have a kicker,
I was just going to say that.
Special teams can be pretty good for the Steelers as well.
I'm going to say Tomlin's having kicking tryouts right now for the team.
Yeah.
I mean, I have never seen anything like that in my life where they have nobody on the whole team who could kick an extra point.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell me that TJ Watt can't get out there. I mean, none of those guys have had. First of all, every fat offensive lineman, we always dream about kicking the ball or catching the ball. So every Friday or in the NFL would be a Saturday walkthrough.
Yeah.
You'd be going through, these plays that the offensive line was creating, and that includes kicking. I mean, I can't believe they don't have any. One is I can't believe the punter never kicked a field goal.
Yeah.
I mean, like I told you, he's built like a linebacker, so I could see why not. I mean, he's enormous. But I could not believe that.
That's why they need to get Jordan Stout next year.
I could not believe they have nobody. But go back to what you were saying about the short passing game. Is he's really starting to utilize Freiermuth.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you right now, that catch he made, or that touchdown catch.
Yeah.
Holy crap, man! That's like one of those. Like, okay, this is going to be, push him towards stardom, in my opinion, as being one of those next great receivers or great tight ends in the NFL right now. But I'll even rewind it even farther. And that is the opening play of the game. I'm looking at the Steelers huddle up, and I'm looking at this thing standing next to Roethlisberger, and I'm like, Jesus God, who is that? What is that thing? And it was the guy Gentry, the tight end from Michigan.
Yeah.
Who's like 6'8", 6'9".
Yeah.
I mean, Ben's looking at him like you would look at me. I mean, you're a tall guy, I'm a tall guy, but you still got to look up to me.
Oh, yeah.
Roethlisberger. I'm like, he's enormous. And this guy is looking up to this tight end guy, and I'm like, holy crap. And then I'm watching him play, and I'm like, well, he's not the guy going after passes too much because Freiermuth, that's his job, and this mutant's job is to stay in and block. So,
yeah.
But, good game by the Steelers. They won the game. I did notice that. I did learn one thing about my wife this weekend. She is a diehard Browns fan. We know this. I know this.
Yeah.
But I'm a red zone guy. And she said, hey, can we please just watch the Steelers-Browns game? And, I didn't get to watch much of anything else, but I'm watching this game, and I'm listening to her scream, and I was like, it's me the night before. I'm MF and every guy on the team and this and that. She's MF and Baker, Landry, Beckham, all these guys. And I'm like, what? She's like, I'm a bigger Browns fan than a Penn State fan. I'm like, it shows that you're proving it. So thought that was funny. But just watching that game and, someone's got to make a play for Baker. I mean, they're giving him a lot of crap.
Yeah.
Saying he's not big. I mean, Landry dropped 2-3 passes.
Yeah.
Beckham, who now, his father released a video of him with all the times that he was open and didn't get past to. I mean, you got to get past this whole me thing. The two of them, I mean, I know Landry and Beckham are like really good friends and this and that. But I asked my wife, I said, how many times have they actually played in the same field? Because it seems like one of them's hurt almost every week. And Landry's got to make at least one of those catches to end that game. At least one of them. Beckham Jr., that was ridiculous, the ball that he completely short-armed in the end zone. I mean, Minka was going to end them, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But you still got to go up and try and make that catch. And, you're going to want your teammates to have your back in this and that, and you're going to act like that. That's not going to flush. So, the North is completely up in the air. And then we're watching highlights of the Saints and Browns, or Saints and Buccaneers. Brady 1-3 as a Buck versus the Saints, by the way. Or 1-2, excuse me. Pretty crazy to think about that. What an unbelievable game. Great to watch. But, I mean, we're talking about the NFL coming down, the college football coming down great at the end of the year. The NFL is going to be just very, very, very similar.
It is.
The Eagles, so I was just sent a stat. How many games has Jared Goff won without Sean McVay in his career? And the answer is 0.
I was going to
14.
Is that right? Yeah.
I guess he came in as a Fisher guy.
Yeah.
When he was, 0-8 right now. So he was 0-6 with, after Fisher got fired or when he was starting with then or whatever. And with McVay. But that's just crazy to think about. And it was, the guy went to a Super Bowl for Lord's sake. Is McVay that good? I don't know, but they sure as hell lined up for it with getting Von Miller.
Yeah.
I mean, Aaron Donald, you're going to have to single block Aaron Donald and single block Von Miller. You got a choice of who are we going to double on that defensive line? Nah, that's not going to happen, guys. That's going to be mayhem out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they loaded up good.
That is for sure.
$9 million of the salary too.
Well, and listen,
that's a cheap all pro right there.
Meanwhile, the Packers, who after the week 1 loss, everybody, mayhem, and Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be there. And now, I'm not sure that they're not the. I don't know. I haven't seen lines or anything right now, but they have to be up there, if not the Super Bowl favorite at this stage of the season, which is amazing. Right, I mean, that's just amazing.
I mean, I guess I wasn't here for the Thursday show last week. So, do you ever remember a Thursday night game from the NFL with that much importance? I mean,
not at this stage. Yeah, not at this stage of the season,
was crazy,
for sure.
Man. I mean, I guess I didn't think that Arizona was going to be that good, but Arizona should have won that game, first of all. But Green Bay, that was crazy how that one ended. It is what it is. Yeah. You think, who would be your odds-on favorite right now to win the Super Bowl? You're hung up on Rodgers.
I mean, that's the beauty of it. It's much like college football. And I mean, Georgia, I think right now is the clear favorite there. But, boy, I'm telling you, I'm not 100% sure, right? We'll see how things play out. I'm not sure Georgia's even going to be in the playoffs, let alone going to win it. There's still a lot of football to be played, and I'm telling you, when you start reading the press clippings, and I guarantee you right now in Georgia, it is all about national championship or bust, baby. Like this is it. This is our year, and I'm just telling you, there are too many good teams in that league to be, and I'm not saying the players are. I'm just telling you, if they do start reading those press clippings and listening to all the praise down there, as good as that team is, it is certainly a beatable football team.
I have not seen a ball hawking team on defense like them.
It is football. Amazing.
I mean, everyone is going for interceptions.
Yeah.
It is absolutely amazing. Just a tip ball here and there's like 9 guys chasing it down. It's very impressive. I haven't seen it, that kind of, like that stifling of a defense and that aggressive of a defense and that hungry of a defense in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Long time. And they can play, man. They really, really impressed me on Saturday against Florida. Florida's quarterback was, I mean, by the time they went to halftime, I said, if that guy's playing in the third quarter, they're done. I mean, he was just I don't know if he was rattled or just off, but he made some absolutely horrendous type decisions. The Carson Wentz type decision on that, like, you're a running quarterback, I got you, but you can't be fighting for yards like he was, and that fumble, and it just changed the whole complexion of that game. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But again, it's going to be a fantastic next 5 weeks. So I was looking at when we were on commercial here. Ohio State ends Sparty Wolverines.
Yeah.
And that's a very physical game that Sparty's going to give them. Very physical game.
No question
and then
about
you're
that.
You're going to go into Michigan, which is, your all-time rival and this and that. I mean, that's not going to be an easy – if they do come out of the Big Ten and win the Big Ten title, they are going to absolutely earn it.
Sure.
I'm telling you, Ironhead, I got a feeling Mel Tucker and Michigan State is going to beat them up. I just had that feeling. I don't know what it is. They're pretty damn good. That was a pretty good game they played the other day. Now, Ohio State is a pretty damn good team and a very, very good defensive team, but offensively, they're really freaking good. Ohio State is.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I give our defense a lot of credit for hanging in there and fighting those guys. And how many? We had 2 stops on 4th downs. I mean, and Ryan Day, he is lucky that going on 4th down didn't come back to bite him. Late in that game. But I think Sparty's a different team. I think Mel Tucker is a blue-collar guy, and he's got those guys believing. It'll be interesting, man. It'll like I said, like Greasy said, this is a 5-week playoffs. What we're rolling right now. I mean, this is as close to a playoff as we're going to get when it comes to the Big Ten East.
Yep. No, and it's fun, right? It's good for the sport. I think it's fun for the fans. And it's fun for the players, right? You want to have meaningful games that you can go out and play at this time of year. And, I think for Penn State, again, the 10-win thing to me is still something significant in terms of what you're playing for. And listen, I think there's got to be a part of you that takes the attitude going into those, to all of these games, but certainly for Michigan and the Michigan and Michigan State games, part of that attitude has to be, listen, we're going to ruin your seasons the way Illinois ruined our seasons, right? Like, I mean, if you can't be the team, you want to be the team that prevents another team from being the team.
Are we out of the Big Ten title game?
So I think, I don't know if mathematically, I guess there would be a possibility, but
we have 1 loss.
They're not. Yeah, but you got 3 in the conference.
Okay, that's the next thing is conference. So
yeah, you got 3
in
the
conference. Ohio State
loses
loses to Michigan and Michigan State. We beat Michigan and Michigan State.
You got to get Michigan State losing a 3rd game there somewhere.
Our 3rd game will be us. One would be us, and then 2. They'd have
Ohio
to lose
State,
a 3rd
but you'd
game
have
in the East.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
Is it overall record, or is it just the conference or the division record? We're going to figure that out before Thursday.
For the
to see who goes from the East, is it just versus the East opponents, or is it the whole Big Ten?
No, it's the Big
overall?
Ten. Yeah.
Okay. All right, then. Yeah, we got no shot.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
mathematically, I'm sure there's a scenario out there, but it's not happening. Is the bottom line?
That's good. When you prognosticate stuff like that, I like to hear that type of stuff.
Yes. But listen, I think, I keep waiting because I still think Oklahoma's not that good, but they put together a better performance, I thought, Saturday than they've had in a while. I still think Cincinnati's deserving, but if at the end of the day, you have let's say Michigan State's only loss is, a field goal loss to Ohio State. I don't know. You tell me how you're taking Cincinnati over Michigan State.
They did not help themselves this week against Tulane.
No,
that'll be the one that they will talk about. Well, they struggled against a 1-loss or a 1-win Tulane.
But that is one of the.
Every title team has that 1 week where they're just off.
Yeah, and it's one of the problems. And again, I don't know what the answer or the solution is, but when you're talking about college football, is again the teams that you're playing when you're playing them, and there's just so many things that factor in, including again the strength of schedule plays into it, but it's not a schedule. The schedule is made up 6-7 years in advance. And again, you could be trying to play, you could be scheduling a Florida State with the idea that you're going to be playing the Florida State that's contending for the national title, and you get the Florida State this year. Or you could be scheduling Cincinnati with the idea, that you're scheduling a W, and then you're getting the Cincinnati of this year. So that, sometimes you get rewarded for having a tough schedule by dumb luck, and sometimes you get penalized for having a soft schedule because of unfortunate luck. And I don't know how, again, I don't know what the answer is there. I don't know how you rectify it, or I don't even know is the right term there, but it's just it's very difficult, virtually impossible to know, right, how any particular team is going to match up with another team on a given day. Because again, and I love I really do. I love the ESPN things with, the computers or whatever it is. Penn State has a 98% chance to beat Illinois today. Ohio State has a 78% chance to beat that. That's meaningless at the end of the day. The teams are going to go out there and play the game. What would the Jets chance? I mean, the Jets had to have 2 or 3% chance of beating the Bengals on Sunday, right? Yep. It'd be pretty remote. But goofy things happen, man.
We're talking about betting lines, right?
Yeah.
Did you see the Rams-Houston Texans game?
Did not.
Okay, well, it's 38-0 at the 3 quarters, and it ended up 38-22. Guess what the line was? 16.5. That's unbelievable.
It is.
I was like looking at it. I'm like, oh my God, is this really happening? I'm watching it. It was like wow. But it's. I go back to. I may have told you the story years ago, but I went to a funeral with Tim Curley one time. Tim Curley, the former athletic director of Penn State, and this is when I had first gotten back to Penn State in 2005. And he says to me, he didn't even know my name was Goon at the time. He said, Keith, you have no idea the teams that are calling here. They want a piece of us right now. Georgia, Auburn, Alabama, Miami, Florida State. He's like, we have 4 out of 5 losing seasons in a row. They're lining up to kick our teeth in right now because they know that we're down, and then thank God we've recovered from all of that. This was before the sanctions, but like you just said, I mean, then you're scheduling that team out. Like Auburn, I don't know when that schedule was made and we were going to play them and then do a home and home. I don't know when that was done. I mean, if it was done in 2005 or 6, I mean, that was when Penn State was really, or it could have been during the sanctions. Yeah. And they thought, we're going, it's an easy victory. Go up to Penn State, we'll beat a northern team, a known team, a Penn State team and this and that. And then all of a sudden, hey, they go get your teeth kicked in. So it's pretty funny, but it is so true about the scheduling. You have absolutely no idea. Yeah. And again, it is amazing how quickly things can change. I mean, the Chiefs are just watching some of the highlights, and listen, they pulled it out last night, but that is not the team that everybody was expecting. Now, listen, they could be there at the end of the year. This is, they could still win the Super Bowl when it's all said and done. But right now, they don't look like a sure bet by any stretch to get to the playoffs, let alone to the Super Bowl, let alone win the thing. And, Clemson, which has been, a juggernaut, is, having a tough season. And then you have Pitt. Last week we were all on the Pitt bandwagon. And whoops. Clemson and this and that. They got Miami coming to town. You could have changed the face of the program by whooping up on Miami, and then you go and do what Pitt does. Yeah. Crazy. That's the way the world is. As Pitt turns, buddy. I was devastated. I was very upset by that whole thing. Just completely. I was horrified.
Penalty flags down.
Tough
Penalty flags down. Oh, sorry. I had a flashback to Friday night for a moment there.
I heard.
State High Altoona game. I don't know what it ended up. I know it was over 20 penalties between the two teams. I think we ended up at either 23 or 24 penalties in a high school football game Friday night, but
dirty fights, just
all of that. No, it was there were a lot of unsportsmanlike, a lot. Yeah, it was very, very chippy. Game, yeah. But there was there were a lot of false starts, a couple of offsides. There was a holding in there. There was, I think there was a pass interference. I mean, it was a very,
You're talking about the
very,
Jets
very
game, by the
chippy
way.
game. Yeah.
I don't know if you watched the end of it, but in the fourth quarter, when there was a minute and a half left, and inexplicably, the Jets ran out of bounds on one running play, and then they had an incomplete pass, and Cincinnati was going to get the ball back. They had third down. They would have called one timeout, and then the 2-minute warning. They still would have had 2 timeouts left, and they called a cornerback for lowering his head on a tackle.
Yeah,
you could call that every play.
Oh yeah,
it's just like holding.
Yeah,
it's exactly like holding. You could call holding on the offensive line. Somebody's holding, or the legal hands to the face somewhere. You could call it every play.
Yeah,
you're going to get a guy for lowering his head to go tackle a running back low. I mean, come on, you could do that every play if you want, and that's the referees. You got to avoid, stay out, don't try to determine the end of the game. And I can't stand that about referees, and that's when people get a little upset.
Hey, you don't want the call. Don't play dirty like the Bengals did, Goon.
Don't lower your head to make a tackle on somebody's ankles. Yeah, don't do that.
There's no need for that in today's NFL, Goon. There was a very good call by the officials. The Jets deserve the win over the Bengals, and gets the Steelers back.
I think the
very
Steelers
much
should have had a penalty every play on their defense, by the way. Cheap shots. They're dirty players.
Clean. No, just a very clean played game by the Steelers, as usual. We just respect and honor the rules. Every now and then the officials make some bad calls against the poor Steelers, but no, very respectful, always playing within the bounds of the rules set up by the league. It's just what the Steelers do.
Boswell had probably the greatest tweet of all time yesterday. And he says, I dressed up as a quarterback yesterday, and I got spooked because he got absolutely waylaid.
That
was hilarious.
Let's go Braves tonight, and I, for one, will be doing the tomahawk chop in my living room. Yeah. That is going to do it for today's show. We will be back on Thursday with yet another edition of the Lion Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show. Until then, be good and be safe.